The Galactic Empire, a vast and technologically advanced interstellar civilization, had ruled the galaxy for millennia. With their massive fleets, hyper-advanced warships, and near unassailable dominance, the Empire had developed an air of arrogance and condescension toward lesser species. To them, the humans of Earth were a mere curiosity, an upstart race, still too primitive and too young to truly understand the complexities of galactic warfare and technology. Their ships were crude, their weaponry outdated, and their technology nothing more than a footnote in the annals of spacefaring civilizations. In the eyes of the Empire, humanity was far from a threat. This prevailing arrogance was put on full display at the annual Galactic Tech Symposium, a prestigious event held to showcase the latest and greatest in military technology. Representatives from the most powerful species in the galaxy presented their innovations with pride, displaying weaponry that could annihilate entire planets and ships capable of wiping out fleets with a single strike. When Earth's delegation arrived, they were met with polite but derisive smiles. The humans had brought something new, a prototype warship, one of many designs they had been working on to bolster their position in a galaxy where they were still seen as outsiders. The human delegation consisted of a group of military officers, engineers, and scientists led by Captain Amelia Grant, a rising star in the human fleet. The ship they presented, known as the Beast, was a heavily modified prototype designed to be both nimble and deadly. Unlike the hulking dreadnoughts of the Empire, the Beast was smaller, more maneuverable, and designed for unconventional combat. It was armed with advanced particle beams, a new kind of energy shield, and a cutting-edge AI to assist with targeting and flight maneuvers. It was a vessel built with human ingenuity and resourcefulness, but it was still raw, untested, and relatively simple compared to the sleek, massive warships of the Empire. At the symposium, the Empire's elite military leaders, scientists, and engineers gathered in their own section, standing in judgment of Earth's offering. The human engineers spoke passionately about the innovations that had gone into the ship, but their audience wasn't impressed. To the Empire, Earth's technology was laughable, too small, too fragile, too reliant on brute force and unconventional tactics. They openly scoffed at the idea that such a ship could even pose a threat to their fleets, let alone match the firepower of their own colossal warships. One Empire official, Admiral Cyrix, took particular pleasure in mocking humanity's efforts. "Is this supposed to be a warship?" he asked, waving his hand dismissively at the ship's holographic display. "It's nothing more than a toy. Perhaps it's meant to impress children." The audience chuckled at his derisive tone, but Captain Grant, undeterred by the mockery, remained calm. She knew the potential of the ship. The Beast wasn't built to engage the Empire on their terms. It was designed to outmaneuver their heavy ships and deliver devastating strikes when least expected. And despite the Empire's laughter, she had one thing going for her: humanity's resilience and the desire to prove itself. In an impulsive and bold move, Captain Grant challenged the Empire. "If you're so certain that this ship is nothing more than a toy, then prove it," she said, standing tall before the mocking crowd. "I propose a live fire test. You bring your best fleet and we'll show you what the Beast can really do." The Empire's response was predictable. They didn't see the need to take such a challenge seriously. They'd destroy the human's ship in minutes. Admiral Cyrix, still smirking, accepted the challenge, confident that the ensuing humiliation would be swift and final. "We'll see how long your Beast lasts in a real battle," he said. "Prepare yourselves for a lesson in galactic warfare." Little did the Empire know that this seemingly foolish challenge would be the catalyst for something far more dangerous than they could have ever anticipated. As the challenge was set, the humans began their preparations with a mix of confidence and trepidation. The Empire had laughed at them, belittled their technology, and offered only mockery in return for their boldness. But Captain Amelia Grant and her crew were determined to prove themselves and show that humanity, despite its perceived weakness, had the ingenuity and determination to make a significant mark on the galaxy. However, they knew that the Empire's superiority complex was not to be underestimated, so they threw themselves into their work with an unwavering sense of purpose. The ship chosen to face the Empire was the Beast, a prototype warship designed in secrecy by Earth's best engineers. While it was already a marvel of human technology, Captain Grant and her team knew it needed to be far more than just a well-designed ship. It had to be a symbol of humanity's resilience and resourcefulness. They pushed the limits of their technology, augmenting the ship with advanced AI, cutting-edge stealth systems, and new weapons that could surprise even the most seasoned galactic forces. The ship's hull was reinforced with experimental alloys that were not only durable, but also flexible, able to absorb and redirect kinetic force. The engines were overhauled to allow the ship unparalleled maneuverability, making it a nightmare for any opponent that relied on brute force. The most groundbreaking development, however, was its new energy shield technology. Unlike the traditional static shields used by most ships, the Beast's shields could warp and redirect energy, making it nearly impossible for standard weaponry to land a direct hit. The weapons, too, were no ordinary projectiles. They were designed to target weaknesses in enemy ships' defenses, maximizing damage with every shot. As the final modifications were being completed, there were doubts even within the ranks of humanity's forces. The Empire had fleets of warships, each one capable of eradicating entire worlds. How could the Beast, a comparatively small vessel, stand a chance against them? But Captain Grant, who had led humans through countless struggles, remained resolute. She knew that the true strength of humanity lay not in their technological might, but in their adaptability, their ability to innovate under pressure, and their willingness to never back down. The time came for the live fire test, and with the Empire's fleet in position, the humans deployed the Beast. When the ship emerged from the depths of space, the Empire's forces couldn't help but sneer at the sight. The ship was far smaller and less intimidating than anything they had seen before. It looked like little more than a gnat's wing to their vast dreadnoughts. But Captain Grant had no intention of matching the Empire's forces in a traditional way. The test began with the Empire's flagship, leading a fleet of heavily armored warships into the fray. They activated their superior weapons, launching missile barrages and railgun blasts toward the human ship. However, what followed was far beyond the Empire's expectations. The Beast did not meet the Empire's firepower head-on. Instead, it darted and weaved with an agility that astounded the Empire's fleet. Human engineers had designed the ship for speed and unpredictability, knowing that the Empire's brute force tactics relied on controlling space and overwhelming enemies with firepower. But the Beast was a ship that could outrun and outmaneuver its attackers. With each dodge and evasive roll, the Beast avoided the Empire's fire, while its weapon systems locked on and fired in calculated bursts. The Empire's ships were slow to react. They were designed for large-scale warfare, not to deal with the fluid, lightning-fast tactics of a single small vessel. The first ship to fall was a massive destroyer, its shields depleted and its hull perforated by precise shots from the Beast's cutting-edge energy cannons. Admiral Cyrix, watching from the command center of the Empire's flagship, was forced to reassess his earlier dismissiveness. His fleet, usually so dominant, was now being systematically outmaneuvered by a single human ship that seemed to defy the basic principles of space combat. The Empire's forces were no longer confident. They were confused and disoriented. The true shock came when the Beast struck the Empire's pride and joy, the flagship. With the Empire's fleet in disarray, Captain Grant led her crew through an audacious strike on the flagship's weak points, using the Beast's advanced AI to target vulnerable systems and neutralize the ship's ability to retaliate. The flagship's shields faltered, its engines sputtered, and it was left defenseless as the rest of the fleet retreated. The humans had won. The Beast, with its combination of innovation, speed, and cunning tactics, had humbled the Empire and its most powerful warships. The mockery of the Empire had turned to silence, and the galaxy was forced to recognize that humanity was not the joke they had once thought. The Beast had proven that human technology, though still young, was capable of defying even the most dominant powers in the galaxy. The aftermath of the Beast's shocking victory was nothing short of a galactic tremor. The Empire, humiliated by the defeat, could not let such a blow to their pride stand unanswered. A single human ship, smaller and seemingly weaker, had taken down their finest fleet in a matter of hours. This not only threatened their image as the galaxy's supreme power, but also posed a strategic risk. If humanity could build such ships, what other unforeseen capabilities might they possess? The Empire's reaction was swift and decisive. The full weight of their military might would descend upon Earth. The Empire began mobilizing its forces, preparing for an all-out invasion. Within a matter of days, a massive fleet of dreadnoughts, battleships, and supercarriers was assembled, ready to quash humanity's newfound challenge. But this time, the Empire was not simply coming to engage in a controlled exercise. They were bent on annihilation. Their order was clear: destroy Earth's military capacity, erase humanity's technological advancements, and ensure that no human ship would ever again challenge the might of the Empire. Captain Amelia Grant and her crew had no illusions. They knew that the victory at the Tech Symposium had earned them temporary respect, but had also made them the Empire's prime target. Earth's defenses were strong, but they were still vastly outmatched by the Empire's overwhelming firepower. Even the Beast, the technological marvel that had stunned the galaxy, was now a symbol of humanity's defiance and a bullseye for the Empire's wrath. The stakes had escalated from a battle for pride to a fight for survival. On Earth, human engineers, military strategists, and politicians scrambled to prepare for the Empire's onslaught. The Galactic Empire's fleet was on its way, and Earth's military forces were ill-prepared to face such a massive invasion. However, the victory of the Beast had sparked a sense of unity among the people. Humanity now understood that the fight for their freedom was not just for survival, it was a fight for their place in the galaxy. In the days leading up to the attack, humanity's engineers worked feverishly to adapt the Beast's designs. They began mass-producing the prototype ship, albeit with some modifications. Earth's forces, while still outnumbered, now had a fleet of agile, hard-hitting ships ready for the confrontation. But this was no longer about outpacing the Empire with clever designs or superior agility. It was about using what humanity had learned from their first victory to fight back with every weapon at their disposal. The Empire, now faced with a rapidly organized and more coordinated human defense, responded by deploying its ultimate weapon, a massive dreadnought, the Exemplar, a ship of unparalleled size and firepower. This flagship was not just another warship. It was an instrument of terror, capable of laying waste to entire fleets with its supercharged energy cannons. The Exemplar's weaponry alone could obliterate anything in its path, and it was now leading the charge toward Earth, flanked by dozens of other heavily armed warships. As the Empire's fleet entered Earth's system, humanity was ready for the battle. Captain Grant, knowing that conventional tactics would not be enough, formulated a bold plan, one that would use the Empire's overconfidence against them. Drawing on the guerrilla tactics that had served humanity well on their homeworlds, the human forces would strike fast, hit hard, and then vanish into the vastness of space before the Empire could retaliate. The first wave of battles was brutal. The Empire's superior firepower was on full display, and humanity's ships, despite being agile and quick, were pushed to their limits. The Beast and its fellow ships darted in and out of the Empire's lines, striking at vulnerable areas: supply depots, communication relays, and smaller vessels. Earth's forces, though outgunned, focused on taking out the Empire's logistical support and making their fleet ineffective. The Empire, however, was relentless. The Exemplar loomed like an unstoppable force, laying waste to everything in its path. Despite the odds, Captain Grant's crew held on, evading annihilation through a combination of speed, stealth, and sheer determination. The human fleet might have been small, but their knowledge of the terrain, the moons, the asteroid belts, and the vast empty spaces around Earth gave them an edge. They used hit-and-run tactics to slowly wear down the Empire's forces. The Empire's fleet, large and cumbersome, began to falter, unable to keep pace with humanity's unpredictable attacks. But the true test had yet to come. As the battle for Earth raged on, the human fleet realized they couldn't win through conventional warfare. They had to pull out all the stops, using their ingenuity once again to come up with a game-changing weapon. Humanity's engineers working with the crews of the ships activated their secret weapon, an experimental jump drive capable of shifting ships out of phase with normal space, allowing them to reappear behind enemy lines with devastating surprise attacks. The decisive battle for Earth had arrived. The Empire's invasion was in full force, and its might seemed unstoppable. With the Exemplar, the largest and most powerful dreadnought in the galaxy, at the helm, the Empire had already obliterated much of humanity's defensive infrastructure. Their massive fleet had reduced Earth's outer defenses to rubble, and it seemed as though humanity's last stand was drawing near. However, despite the overwhelming odds, Earth's forces, led by Captain Amelia Grant and the Beast, refused to yield. The fight for survival had transformed into a battle for humanity's future, and they would not go down quietly. In a desperate move, Captain Grant called for a final, all-out offensive. The human fleet, bolstered by the lessons learned from earlier skirmishes, was ready to take the fight to the heart of the Empire. Drawing on their greatest asset, ingenuity, the human forces began using every trick they had learned from their previous successes. Their tactics shifted from hit-and-run guerrilla warfare to a more daring, direct assault. Their first priority was clear: destroy the Exemplar, the symbol of the Empire's supremacy. The Empire, having underestimated humanity at every turn, now found themselves facing a fully united and determined human resistance. The Beast, despite its size, had become the rallying point for humanity's forces. It was more than just a ship. It was a symbol of humanity's resilience and refusal to be crushed under the weight of the Empire's arrogance. The battle took place just outside Earth's atmosphere, where the vast space around the planet was filled with debris from earlier conflicts. The human fleet launched its final assault, attacking the Empire's forces with a ferocity that shocked even the most seasoned Imperial commanders. Humanity's ships, including the Beast, launched precise coordinated strikes against the Exemplar, targeting the Dreadnought's critical weak points. The Exemplar had been designed to resist most forms of attack, but it was not prepared for the level of ingenuity humanity was bringing to bear. Human engineers had outfitted their ships with newly developed EMP-based weapons capable of temporarily disabling the Exemplar's power systems. These weapons, combined with the jump drive technology, allowed the human ships to phase in and out of normal space, appearing and disappearing at will, confusing and disorienting the Empire's forces. For the first time, the Empire's fleets were on the defensive. The once indomitable dreadnought was now under siege, its shields flickering under the relentless barrage of human fire. As the battle raged, Captain Grant and her crew aboard the Beast made a bold decision. They knew that the Exemplar was the key to the Empire's strength in this war. If it could be destroyed, the morale of the Empire's forces would shatter, and the rest of the fleet would be left vulnerable. Captain Grant's crew, working in a coordinated effort with the rest of the human forces, launched a final assault on the Exemplar, striking the ship's command center with devastating precision. A massive explosion tore through the dreadnought, and the Exemplar, the symbol of the Empire's invincibility, was no more. With their flagship destroyed and their forces in disarray, the Empire's remaining fleet began to retreat, their morale broken and their command structure in ruins. The humans had done the impossible. They had not only survived the Empire's wrath but had delivered a crushing blow to its heart. The once mighty galactic empire, shattered and humiliated, began to retreat into the void. In the wake of the battle, the galaxy witnessed the rise of a new power. The human fleet, now equipped with advanced technology and led by bold, fearless commanders, stood victorious. Earth, which had once been considered a backwater planet in the galactic order, had now proven itself as a force to be reckoned with. The Beast, once mocked and underestimated, had become a symbol of humanity's spirit, ingenuity, and resilience. As the Empire withdrew, leaving behind only a fraction of their former strength, humanity began to forge new alliances with other species that had long feared the Empire's dominance. The tables had turned, and the galaxy now saw humanity not as a weak, primitive species, but as an up-and-coming power capable of shaping its own future. The Empire, now in disarray, would never recover from the crushing blow it had received. The lesson was clear. Humanity might have been underestimated, but it was now a force to be reckoned with. As Earth entered a new era, it became the beacon of hope for countless other species, proof that even the greatest empires could fall, and that no power was unassailable.